Okay, we're just about to come on to the first of the two lakes, the smaller of the two. This is
On this episode of Northwest Outdoors, find out who takes care of overused camping areas at some Northwest Alpine lakes. Learn a great recipe for oysters. Plus, snowmobiling near the Three Sisters in Central Oregon.
We got hundreds and hundreds of miles of trails available to us.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision tools and cutlery. Kershaw Knives strongly supports outdoor programming as well as responsible outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And by Subaru, engineered and designed for all types of activities in the great outdoors. Subaru believes that enjoyment of the Pacific Northwest should be available to everyone. And by Alltrek.com. Alltrek provides high-performance clothing and gear for every outdoor experience, including paddling, camping, hiking, climbing, and more. Information can be found online at Alltrek.com. And by Energy Northwest, providing electricity for the Pacific Northwest today and for our future. You too can help provide electricity for our future by reducing your use of electricity today. Remember, conserve whenever possible.
Two groups of six.
Does anybody want to take a couple of the llamas up?
We begin this show at the trailhead of the Twin Sisters Trail in the William O. Douglas Wilderness area. Located off of Chinook Pass in central Washington, this area has become very popular with hikers and campers. And that's primarily why the U.S. Forest Service is here with pack llamas. Along with the voluntary help of the Yakima-based hiking group, the Cascadians, they have come together to restore shoreline vegetation at some selected, well-used alpine lakes.
We've been working with the llamas off and on for about the past 5 years. And the reason why we started working with the llamas is they are just so easy to work with. There's not really too much of a safety factor for people who are inexperienced stock users. With the volunteer groups, we do quite a bit of different, variety of different duties. We do lakeshore restoration at some of our more popular lakes like Twin Sisters, Dewey Lake, which is on the Pacific Crest Trail. We also do quite a bit of trail maintenance with the volunteer groups. The trail that we're hiking along right now, the volunteers cleared this trail early in the season. Okay, we're just about to come on to the first of the two lakes, the smaller of the two. This is called Little Twin. It's one of our lakes. It's probably loved to death because of its natural pristine beauty and also because of the short hike to get here. And we'll go around here and take a view of the lake.
Okay, basically what they're doing is, it's kind of standard Forest Service practice. Eventually we're going to put fabric mat down over overused campsites that are closed for rehabilitation. These stakes, they're staking a sign on the stake that simply identifies it as a site under restoration and warns people, don't camp there, don't make it any worse.
What the blanketing does is it allows for new growth to come up in the site that's been heavily impacted, where all the soil has been and all the vegetation has been denuded.
So it works best if you get one person that kind of holds this down one person hold it down and the other person kind of roll it out.
Okay, and then see somebody has to pat. Yeah.
Right.
Today is one of our trail days, our work days. We come out here several times a year to kind of give back to the forest and work on the trails that we use so much.
The Forest Service typically doesn't have the money for these types of projects, and that's where our volunteer groups come in and are so beneficial to us. And we have a lot of volunteer hours that are put in, that are logged each year for these type of projects. It's a great savings to the Forest Service.
And what you do is just lay it out and you put stuff on top of it, kind of to keep it in place and kind of so that, you know, so that it's a site people shouldn't use.
Well, the Cascadians has been around for 80 years. This is our 80th anniversary. It originally started as a climbing club mostly, but since then we've expanded over the years into many, many activities, and it has changed and evolved over the years. We do day hikes, backpacking trips, we still do some climbs, do backcountry skiing, we do trail building and trail maintenance as we're doing today, but there are many activities, even bicycling and kayaking sometimes.
The Forest Service has a huge volunteer program. We use, of course, the Cascadians. We have a lot of our stock users, backcountry horsemen, if you will. There's several chapters that do quite a bit of packing for us, you know, on a volunteer basis. We also have, under our multiple use concept, we have volunteers that work on our four-wheel drive trails and also on our motorcycle trails.
Thanks to groups like the Cascadians, progress is being made to educate the public about proper use of the outdoors and restoring areas that have been impacted by overuse. Head to Central Oregon for a snowmobiling trip. That's coming up on Northwest Outdoors next. But first, here's a first aid quick tip on medical emergencies in the mountains from the American Red Cross.
A medical emergency in the mountains is a very different situation than one that occurs in the city, where telephones, ambulances, and emergency medical care are only minutes away. And while the use of cellular phones and radios can speed up the contacting of rescuers, it may still take hours for a rescue party to reach you or even the trailhead. So instead of providing care for just a few minutes, you may have to provide care for hours or possibly even days. Providing first aid in an extreme environment is made much more difficult many times by lack of equipment. When all you have to work with is what you carry in with you, selecting and packing the right equipment is vital. Be aware of any special problems you may have to overcome due to altitude, isolation, or other circumstance. If an accident does occur, there are several steps you should take. You need to think about your own safety first. Check the scene and be aware of any hazard present. Then approach the patient safely to avoid further injury and keep other party members safe. Since severe bleeding and lack of pulse pose an immediate threat to life, always treat these conditions first. Take charge, divide the work, and assign tasks to specific individuals. Whatever the extent of the injuries, he or she may require protection from the environment. Move quickly to a safe location if you're in an area of high risk due to snow or rock avalanche or extreme lightning danger. Remember, talk to the patient, explain who you are and what you're trying to do. Once the patient is protected, you need to examine him thoroughly and identify all other injuries, both major and minor. It is now time to develop a comprehensive plan of action that might include extended treatment and perhaps evacuation if required. And finally, remember, these safety tips cannot take the place of certified first aid and CPR training from your American Red Cross. The Red Cross also offers specialized classes in wilderness and river-oriented first aid. Contact your local American Red Cross chapter for further information.
Any kind of off-camber stuff that requires you to lean to keep the snowmobile from tipping. When you're sitting on the snowmobile, leaning like this won't do anything. You physically need to move your weight to the uphill side of the snowmobile.
Northwest Outdoors is in the Cascade Mountains near the town of Sisters in Central Oregon. This is the playground for snowmobile guide Carl Rapp and his Quest of the West guide service. Going on a day ride with a group of customers, Rapp enjoys the access snowmobiling gives to the remote areas of the outdoors.
What's great about snowmobiling is that it probably has the most freedom of any off-road or all-terrain vehicle of any kind. Because what happens is the snow covers up a lot of things, so it allows us to go through the woods and up the hills and down the ridges, places to where a normal ATV could never go. And we're totally environmental friendly, because as soon as it snows next time or the snow melts, our tracks are gone. We're hidden from what happened. When people come to Central Oregon snowmobiling, I think one of the main things that they miss is the diversity of the areas that we have to offer here. Mount Bachelor, for instance, most people know about Mount Bachelor, so most people come here and they think that Mount Bachelor is the only spot to go, where we actually have 7 or 8 different riding areas. If you're not familiar with the area, it's always good to get a guide to make sure that you get to go out on a safe ride and come back when you're supposed to, and somebody that knows where you're going, because these areas are very vast and these snowmobiles will take you to places that you can't walk home from. Driving upward on today's trip, we're going to drive up McKenzie Pass. It goes up over the top of the Cascade Mountains and down the other side. This is the first viewpoint that we come to. It's called Windy Point. This is a lava flow here. It's a real young one. It's only about 1,500 years old, so it's a very young lava flow. The lava offers a pretty unique perspective of what the planet used to be like years ago and stuff. So where we're at, we have views here of Mount Washington, Jefferson. You can see Mount Hood off in the very far distance.
.325 feet marks McKenzie Pass, a scenic byway in the summer, and when the snow flies, it becomes a winter wonderland. A unique observation spot sits on top of the pass. This rock house was built to get a 360-degree view of the area.
We're up at the observatory on top of the mountain. This was built in the 30s, and it's a tribute to a postal man that lost his life up here in trying to carry mail over the pass and stuff. Well, they don't carry mail over the pass anymore. It's closed. It's used for recreation, and the highway is a scenic byway. This was constructed up here for people to stop and enjoy all the views of the mountains. It tells you where they're all at. It tells you the elevation of them. In the summertime, it's real busy up here because it's a scenic byway and it gets used a lot. There's a lot of people come up here, and so in the wintertime, it's kind of a nice break because we come up here and most of the time there's not hardly anybody here. We have it to ourselves, and the winter scenery makes it a lot more peaceful, tranquil setting too.
The beauty and fun terrain make Central Oregon a great place to ride a sled. And as on most trips, Carl always takes advantage of the assorted jumps provided by Mother Nature.
Get a little bit of fun in there. No, we got lots of trails to ride on. Some of the most popular trails are up around the Bachelor area. This area here, McKenzie Pass, is in what we call the Sisters area. It's like the group's doing a good job today. Everybody's riding good. Keeping a group together so we can tell what's going on.
Although this area is vast with hundreds of miles of trails, there are some boundaries set up by the Forest Service.
We just pulled up to the wilderness boundary here. This wilderness on this side of us is the Three Sisters Wilderness. Snowmobiles aren't allowed in the wilderness. There's plenty of places for us to play without intruding on the wilderness. On the far side of the road, on the other side, it's the Mount Washington Wilderness. So we're actually between two wilderness systems here.
We'll continue our snowmobile day ride around the Three Sisters in Central Oregon and also get some photo tips from photographer Eric Evans.
Slope, and he's going to use the lower part first.
Now let's head to the Seafood School in Astoria, Oregon and learn a great way to prepare steamed oysters with Northwest Outdoors fishing host Hobart Mans.
We're going to cook these on the grill, is that right?
Right in the shell.
Okay, let's see how we do this. Simple. We could be doing this on a campfire over coals or anything where the heat is up at least to a medium-high.
Medium-high heat, and you want to make sure that you put the bottom down.
Now, how do I know it's bottom and top? I know.
Well, usually the bottom has a deeper cup to it.
Okay.
And the top will be more of a just level shell. And, you know, this is a good example. You can see it's deeper here at the bottom.
Or this attachment area would also be a good indication of the bottom.
That's right.
So it would be down like this on the floor of the ocean. This is top.
That's correct.
And this attachment area would be bottom.
It's a good idea, Hobart, to rinse them off or scrub as much loose sand or barnacles off of them as you can before you put them on.
Okay, and as they start to cook, we're going to see a little steam or liquid come out of the sides of them. Some of them will open and some will not.
That's correct. So you don't want to rely on them popping open. We're going to do it by time pretty much.
How long should these be on the grill, Eric?
About 5 to 7 minutes, Hobart.
Okay, that gives us time to go over here and do a mixture of sauce to dip those in.
That's right. We're going to make a butter for them.
Okay.
And what we're going to use, I have some softened whole butter here. And to that, we're going to add some fresh cracked black pepper. And to that, we're going to add some fresh lime juice. Okay?
Okay.
And then we're just going to mix this all together. And a spoon will get you started, but a whip works better.
That will get you there quicker eventually.
That'll get you there quicker. And at first it doesn't want to really incorporate, but just keep going at it and you'll get it all incorporated in the butter.
It'll work down.
It'll work in there.
They look like they've been steaming and cooking for a while.
Been on here for about 6 minutes now, Hobart, so we're going to see how they're doing, and we're going to pop the lid off of one of these.
And I see you doing something that they should pay attention to. You've got a towel laid out. You fold the towel over on top so you don't burn your hands. Then you go in with a little oyster knife and open it.
That's right. If you're not very good at opening oysters or haven't done it much, you might have a tendency to break the shell and go right into your hand. So this is just a little added insurance by putting a towel over it, kind of protects yourself. And you can see how easily they open. And we have a beautiful oyster right there that's steaming away. We're going to take some of this butter that we made and just dollop it over it and let the heat from the oyster melt it.
Wonderful. And on that bed of rock salt, it's a great presentation too. The nice part about these oysters is there's several different kinds of oysters up and down the coast too. You've got willow paws and oysters from Newport. And a lot of these come from commercially grown beds around if you go to the stores to buy them. And they're all excellent products to purchase. Fresh oysters are available almost every place here in the Northwest. Look at that, barbecue campfire oysters fit for anybody. And anybody here in the Northwest could be making these. All you need is a few oysters, a few moments, and very simple ingredients. And it's a gorgeous looking platter, Eric.
I hope you enjoy them, Hobart.
So this is a nice shot here. We got Mount Bachelor, which is a really famous ski hill in the background.
Meet Eric Evans, outdoor photographer. The beauty of Central Oregon, combined with the sport of snowmobiling, has brought Evans here to gather stock footage for future clients.
That was a great shot right there. I liked it. Flew right over it.
Being a freelance photographer allows him to travel around the Northwest, gathering outdoor sports photos as a full-time job.
On a day like today, I'll shoot maybe 5 or 6 rolls of film, and my camera has a motor drive on it. It's not essential for outdoor adventure photography, but it does help you shoot a lot more film and get more quality shots. When I edit my film, sometimes I only get 4 or 5 frames per roll that are usable, so the more I shoot out here, the better it is. People ask me how I keep my gear protected on river trips and skiing and stuff. I don't always take this case, but this is called a Pelican case. It's waterproof, it has foam, and this works really well for snowmobiling because we're going along a trail, and obviously I can just throw it down in the snow, and it also is good for vibration, which cameras don't like a whole lot. One problem when you're shooting on snow is exposure. So the way I handle that is I just put my camera on manual, and one way to get your exposure setting is you can just meter it off your hand like that and get it sort of correct, or you can find something that's pretty close to gray. And for instance, here's my case, and you want to make sure that it's in the sun, and you just take your reading off that and you make sure it's set. Here it's 500 f8 for my 100 speed film, and I'm ready to go. All right, that's a nice shot. This is a 400 millimeter lens, and if you want to get really tight shots, you're going to have to spend some money. You might not need a 400 2.8, but a longer lens like a 300 or a 400 millimeter will really let you get in close to the action without endangering yourself and getting too close. A few things that make a good photo, in my opinion. First of all, unless you're trying for something different, your photo generally needs to be in focus, and of course the exposure is really important too, and then there's composition. As far as focus, when you're shooting sports photography or something that's moving really fast, a lot of times this camera of course is autofocus, which I use most of the time, but sometimes I'll go ahead and pre-focus it on a spot when the snowmobile, let's say Carl's going to do a little jump or something, and I'll pre-focus it right in the air where he's going to be, and then I'll take the shot, and that way it doesn't have to try to focus.
Let's go riding. People that come snowmobiling, they range in age from small infants clear up through people in their 90s. Snowmobiles are comfortable, most of them nowadays, if they're a luxury sled, which most people want to ride if they're out on an excursion like this, that they have electric start and reverse, so they're easy to start, easy to drive. The main difference people have to remember is the difference between driving them and riding them. Most anybody can set on them and drive them down the trail, but when you go to ride them, when you try to climb a hill or go boondocking, things like that, it takes a lot of technique and a lot of years of experience to have that knowledge to be able to side hill across that hill or know what to do when you got to turn out up in the middle of the chute when you're running out of speed. It's just like learning how to snow ski. It's something that takes years and years and years to do, and some people will get better at it than other people. It's just something that does take a lot of technique to do. Driving them, about anybody can drive them. They have special classes for kids that are underage. The kids underage actually go take a full-on instructing class, and they get a certificate that allows them to drive when they're under 16 years old. And people, the older people, they enjoy doing it because they get some good pastime that they can come out here and enjoy the winter activities to where there's no way they could ever ski up here.
Learn more about this episode 1502 by going online at northwestoutdoors.org. On the next episode of Northwest Outdoors, head to the foothills of northeastern Washington and Bull Hill Ranch. The life on the Dude Ranch always includes a cattle drive and some great trout fishing.
Yes, it is. Uh-oh. She's got shoulders, too.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision tools and cutlery. Kershaw Knives strongly supports outdoor programming as well as responsible outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And by Subaru, engineered and designed for all types of activities in the great outdoors. Subaru believes that enjoyment of the Pacific Northwest should be available to everyone. The growth of the Pacific Northwest the past few years and the increased demand for electricity is important to all of us. We at Energy Northwest are doing our best to support this demand by producing safe, reliable electrical power today and for our future. And by alltrek.com. Alltrek provides high-performance clothing and gear for every outdoor experience, including paddling, camping, hiking, climbing, and more. Information can be found online at alltrek.com.